All right, I tried to do a short video, but that, a short YouTube short, which is only 60 seconds. It didn't work. This is just too much content to put into one of those. It was the wrong thing to do. It didn't work. So anyway, I'm going to do a little short thing here. Not short, but I just want to explain my water system that I installed this year, starting last year. Anyway, right here is the Grundfos controller. That controls the pump that's 360 feet down on the ground. It's variable speed, super sweet pump, 16 gallons a minute, 220. This right here is the Aquavar. Same thing. It's a variable speed pump, 220, and it controls that pump down there, which is what it takes the water from this big tank here. Okay, try not to move too fast. Okay, so, and then that's the load center. That's the power for everything in here, except for that is the power for all my filters, which I'm going to show you in a second. Okay, this is where the well comes up through the ground, goes through this little, that's a pressure tank, comes down through here, goes through this water meter, and it goes down, and then under the ground, under the floor, and it comes up over here. I'll show you that in a second too. The meter is there for this right back here, which is the hydrogen peroxide injection. It injects peroxide solution, right? It's diluted heavily into the water because my iron is so bad that it has to be treated. The water is so bad that it has to be treated and killed. And what peroxide is the oxidizer. So it oxidizes the iron and the iron bacteria. Then it goes into this retention tank to do that. It goes under the floor like I showed you. And then it comes up and over here, down into this thing called a mixer, which mixes the peroxide and the water together. It's supposed to spend a little time in this, what's called a retention tank. And it does. It spends, that's 40 gallons. And this thing's running with the RO system. It's only running at 1.5 gallons a minute. So that's plenty of time for it to sit in that tank and kill it. Kill the bacteria, kill the iron. And then this is the backside. I'm going to go around again here. So this is the line from the peroxide injector. All right. And it goes here. It comes down. This little gizmo right here shows you that the injector is actually working. That little ball bounces up and down every time it injects right there. It injects it into the main line, which is going over here to the filter system. The filter system goes from the retention tank into the Iron Max filter. Comes from the Iron Max filter, goes into this carbon block filter. And it goes from there into this. It's also an iron filter and a water softener, because my water is really hard, 61 grain. That's pretty hard. Okay, and then this is like the main brains of the whole thing. This is the, I don't want to say brains. It's not brains. It's the main filter system completely. And it requires that all of that stuff gets filtered out first. This thing doesn't do well with a heavy iron and heavy even peroxide or chlorine or all kinds of things. They have to be filtered out before it gets here. So here it is. It goes into the RO system, and these are pre-filters before it actually goes in. That's just a sediment filter. That's a carbon filter. And then as it comes out of the system, it goes through this thing, which is a remineralizer. It's supposed to bring up the pH a little bit, add some minerals to it that were taken out. Then it goes from there. It goes into, you can't see the piping, but it goes into this UV filter here, which is just a UV light that kills bacteria. As it goes through that system, it then goes back around, down under the floor again, and comes up at this tank. And it goes into the tank at a rate of 1.2 gallons a minute. And that's it. What it does, this tank now sits and waits for another tank that I have. This is a 2,500 gallon tank. I have a 1,500 gallon tank up on the hill, which is about, when I say hill, it's about 40 foot elevation, but it's about 100 yards away, roughly. Okay, so when that tank feeds the house out there, up on the hill. It feeds the house. When that tank gets down to 250 gallons, from its 1,500 goes down 250 gallons by using it in the house, taking showers, flushing toilets, blah, 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 all that happens, then it will request water, which comes from this big tank. Okay, so the big tank then, via this pump, pumps it to the little tank. That's just kind of the cycle that this thing goes through. So when the little tank takes the 250 gallons, when it stops, this thing comes on and automatically from electrical float valve, automatically turns the RO system on and puts the 250 back in the big tank. Okay, that's pretty simple. This right here is just a little test station I have. I have a logbook right there. I have all the little test strips there. I test the water pretty much weekly, especially when it starts to fill the big tank with RO water. But I test there's a lot of different things I test. And so that's what this test station is for. And let's go to the other filter system now. There's a filter system at the house that's used for, basically, people are worried, oh, you've got water in tanks, and tanks are dangerous. You know, viruses and bacteria and all kinds of stuff can breed in a tank. That's not really true. Number one, both my tanks are black. Number two, they're in an enclosed building, which is climate controlled, basically. It's completely insulated. Both tanks are in buildings, completely insulated. Both of them have heaters, so in the wintertime, there's a baseboard heater here, keeps it about 40 degrees in here at all times. Never gets hotter than about 60 in here, even in the heat of summer, because of the insulation. So the water really isn't like going to get stagnant like some pond or some clear tank that's sitting outside. It's just not going to happen. And I've tested it. I've actually had it tested. You don't find that kind of bacteria. Plus, when it goes in, it's going through this UV filter. So that's killing all the bacteria. So what goes into the tank is bacteria-free. And granted, I guess it's possible that as it sits there, it could get contaminated with bacteria and microorganisms. So I'll show you what I did in the house in case that does happen. Okay, this is the old filter room, water filter room for the well that came with the house that had the old filters in it. It had some old Kinetico filters in it when the well was first installed. So here's what I've done. This right here it'll give you an idea of what's going on. But I have another one of the same Ispring UV filters. That's the last thing that happens. Up here, it comes in from the big tank at the top, the little tank in the middle, and directly from the well, but not RO, because there's not enough pressure. With the RO system, it's only 1.5 gallons a minute. You can't run your house on that. It's just impossible. RO systems like mine that produce 1,500 gallons a day, they require a tank. Almost all RO systems have a tank. If you're going to try to supply your house at, let's say, 12 gallons a minute, you have to have something that's going to push the water through the house. So what I have to do is in an emergency situation, like both tanks, quit working, both pumps quit working, I wouldn't be without water, because what I could do would be to turn the RO system off by bypassing it, and then just have the well water, like most people have, going through all those filters. All those filters would be the same. So the water would still be really good. The problem would be is the TDS would be pretty high. be fine for anything you're doing. If you're washing dishes, taking a bath, any of that stuff, high TDS is no big deal. It's not really good for drinking though. So it's a last resort type thing to do. But in this case, I can go from the 1,500 gallon tank or the 2,500 gallon tank, which both have RO water in them. And then it goes through this filter here. This is a 5 micron sediment filter, and then a 1 micron sediment filter, and then a 5 micron carbon block. And it goes up and through the UV, down here, and into the house. Okay? So the carbon block filters, those are good for a lot of things, but in the event there is some kind of bacteria plaguing my tanks, which I do not believe is going to happen. I don't think that's even an option. I can always chlorinate the big tank with, not a shock. I'm not talking about putting gallon of chlorine in there. I'm talking about doing what maybe the EPA would suggest to do for water that is questionably contaminated. I think it's like 8 ounces or something like that. And then I could mix it through the 2,500. It would go to the 1,500, and it would kill any bacteria there is. That's how municipalities do it all the time. That's what they do. They use chlorine to kill bacteria. That's what's the safest thing to do. But that's what also the carbon block filter is for. Carbon block takes chlorine away. So now the tanks, it would have a little bit of chlorine in it, not much. And it would go through the carbon block, and then it would go through the UV filter. So it's all good. I mean, it's like, okay, nothing's going to happen. Okay, those are just extra filters up there. I have extra filters for everything out there, even including a new RO membrane, which is monstrous. It's like $600. Okay, this right here, I call this a distribution center. It really kind of works in conjunction with this over here. But this is how if you look at the chart, I'll give you the chart real quick. You want to stare at it. This is what I call the default settings, which means it's all coming from the little tank up on the hill. And this is what you set everything to get that. But in the event of an emergency where, let's say I just had the little tank, actually, the pump was giving me trouble, and I had to order parts for it. So I just turned it off, ordered the parts. I switched over to the big tank. Nothing changes. It's the same. You don't notice anything. And like I said, in the event that both pumps fail or something happens to both tanks, then I can always bypass the RO system and run directly from the well through all my filters except for the RO, just like everybody else up here has. Not many people have RO systems up here. They have them in their house, under their sink, which I suggest absolutely everybody should have an RO system under their sink in the kitchen for drinking only. You don't need to bathe in it and wash laundry in it. It's not necessary. It just happens to be that way here because that's the way it works. But, it's not. The bonus is you get to drink the water, which is so nasty. And I'm going to show you at the very end of this, I'll show you before and after what the well water looks like. And I got to tell you, the well water looks like it's kind of a golden yellow right now in the picture. That's only been sitting out on the counter for about 2 hours. It comes out looking kind of clear, but in 2 hours it turned that color. If you leave that overnight, it gets completely orange. It gets almost solid. It's so bad. So nobody wants to drink this stuff. And regular filter systems actually help a lot, but RO gets rid of everything. And there's a lot of people out there go, oh, RO, it strips of all the minerals. And it's like, what minerals are you supposed to get from your water? Don't you want H2O? You want pure water. Get your minerals from supplements or your food. Well, there's all kinds of places to get minerals. And the lie that they tell you about stripping your body, your body can be stripped of the minerals it has in it because the water has, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. So anyway, that's not my short. My short failed miserably. It got about 400 views and not one like. Maybe this one, nobody will like this either, but it is what it is. And I just wanted to get it documented. Thanks for watching.